So Farfa tweeted out, "Can we stop peddling the Yu-Gi-Oh is too expensive for new players myth? You're a new player. You don't need thrusts. There are plenty of cheap but solid archetypes and staples. Nobody picks up electric guitar as a hobby then starts out on a $6,000 Gibson or some stuff like that." And so this goes on to a discussion of, is Yu-Gi-Oh too expensive for new players? Is it a myth? And I'll say this right now. Yu-Gi-Oh is an expensive game, but it is not an expensive game for new players. And what I mean by that is in the sense that in order to play at the highest level, to be part of the top 1% of the people who play this game, to be the Jesse Cotton, the Joshua Smiths, the Pack levels, like to be the very best Yu-Gi-Oh players in the world, you have to shell out hundreds of dollars. Hundreds. And when I say this, because when I look at the recent Philadelphia WSK regional, I wouldn't say recent, but it happened like a couple months back, 2 months back. The Despia deck here, we have like around $500, not including tax. We have the Labyrinth 714, a Makonko 200. We have a deck here that's $400, $700. Like, yeah, this game is very expensive, but these players here, they are not a fair representation of every person who plays Yu-Gi-Oh, and these people are absolutely not the type of players who are just trying to get into the game of Yu-Gi-Oh. These are top level pro players. Not even exactly pro players. They're just the top players. And just the ratio of like somebody playing Dark Magician or Blue Eyes or their favorite like heroes relative to the percentile of players who get like first place at a regional or at a YCS or any other premier event is far and few between. So yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh is an expensive game for experienced veteran players who have the ambition and the willingness to throw up a lot of money in order to go and top in these major tournaments here. No new player is going to participate in the World Championships, all right? That's just not going to happen unless you go and just like throw out the money and you have the money available for you. But Yu-Gi-Oh, at least in my opinion, in the past 7 years, has been a very affordable game. And when I say it's a very affordable game, with the tins, with the concept reprints, being able to make a competent, I'm not saying the best deck, I'm saying a competent deck, is very easy. I think it's very, like, you can make, like, a new player can legitimately make a cubic deck or a Blue Eyes deck or some lame Dark Magician deck at under $40. You can make a Blackwing deck at under $40. You can make an unoptimal $50 like hero deck. Now, that is where the issue is. Does a new player, do they have to spend a lot of money to be able to have an actual strong competitive deck? There are so many budget options out there. If you go on YouTube right now, there are plenty of videos of people telling you, hey, if you can't afford this, then play this. If you can't afford this, play this. Hey, here's a budget option. Here's what you can do. Here's an alternate way to go play Yu-Gi-Oh. But the reason why there's so much pressure for new players that, oh man, I have to go buy all the new product, when you really don't have to buy the new product, is because it's the issue with the Yu-Gi-Oh bubble. And this happens towards like to some people in different communities, in the sense that if you're not min-maxing yourself, you're playing the game wrong. It's like World of Warcraft. Like you're not playing World of Warcraft correctly unless you're doing X and Y and you're at a certain level, or you did this with your guild. Like, no, you don't have, like, you can perfectly enjoy World of Warcraft and while not being completely committed to it. You can enjoy Yu-Gi-Oh while not being completely committed to it, though. The reason as to why there's so much pressure for new players that they feel like they have to go and spend a lot of money for these overly expensive cards is because, specifically in Master Duels, there is no way to pit players of similar skill level, especially newbies, against one another. The rank system in Master Duels is completely ridiculous. It's ridiculous. We saw it in Ronron's video, and even something like Sayako, and also like with Penguin Charlie, where you got these inexperienced players, and then they go online and they're in the low ranks, but within low ranks, there are players who are playing like min-max stuff, and that's crazy. And if you go to your local Yu-Gi-Oh, if you go to your Yu-Gi-Oh locals or any like even small time tournaments, you're gonna have somebody who has X amount of years ahead of you and playing the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! And so those new players go into Master Duels, they play against somebody who is quote unquote low leveled, and then they get stomped at by these cards that are very strong, that in real life are very expensive. When truth be told, you do not have to spend all this money. You don't have to spend like $100, or at the time like Lightning Storms or the Triple Tactics Talons. You don't need to, like, there's a period where like Forbidden Droplets was like $100. Now it's like around $8 now, but you don't have to go get Forbidden Droplets. If you truly want the most optimized deck out there that is competitively viable, that will place you in the top 1%, then feel free to spend your money. Feel free to spend it. But new players, they don't have to spend that money. Like someone like Pac, and I get the argument here because Pac brought it up, and it's that, oh, here it is. I cook with 3 structure decks. Yeah, structure decks can really, especially recently, like the Dark World structure deck is pretty darn solid. The Salamangreat was pretty solid. The Monarchs was solid. The Traptrix was solid. And then we have another structure deck coming up that's gonna have Divine RSL AA Zeus. The branded structure deck has been one of the best competitive decks of all time in recent history in Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, you can bring in a structure deck, you can pay less than $100, and you can get a good competitive deck that can last you for over a year. That can happen. It's just the pressure of like, oh, you can only play Yu-Gi-Oh! Or be good at it if you're not like maximizing how your true potential is for your deck. It's like, no, you don't have to. You really don't have to. If you want to fix this idea of the game is too expensive for new players, in order to fix that, you would need to create alternate formats or figure out a way for new players to be matched up with other new players. Alternate formats is a big thing. I truly do believe 100% that it is a myth that Yu-Gi-Oh! Is too expensive for new players. But at the same time, though, there isn't enough matchmaking in real life and in Masters that sets up new players with their competent budget deck out there match up with other budget players. That's just how it is. Like something like Dual Devastator, which was a really great set made by Konami, which made the barrier for entry for competitive very, very easy. The game right now is ultra diverse as it is. It's been diverse for a couple years with the exception of like the tier limits, like period in time where it's tier 0. But Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a very diverse format. Like, I think I did a meta review where someone brought a deck that was about $150 and was Fluffles. Like, in this current day and age of Yu-Gi-Oh! With hand traps and with so many good going second option tech cards out there, you can almost any deck can beat any deck. New players need to stop being veteran players need to stop pressuring new players to make them feel like that they have to play all the new stuff in order to be, welcomed in the community. And new players need to stop pressuring themselves into feeling like they have to go and get all the best cards. Now, is there a way to circumvent that right now? Honestly, no. There is no way to circumvent that. New players, sadly, have the worst barrier for entry for the game. If you have a group of friends, whether it be like a group of 5 or 4 or a group of buddies out there, or if you know people in your locals who are willing to help you out, trust me, there are people out there. There are a lot of newbies and like inexperienced players out there you can find via Facebook or Reddit or even in your local area who are willing to go and help you get caught up in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! You can go borrow cards here and there. Some people will even lend you their cards if you're really, really nice to them. You can spend a couple bucks and you can make a terrible Blue Eyes deck and you can still do pretty decent, honestly, in the competitive setting. But new players need to stop identifying themselves as potential competitive players, because if you do that, you're going to spend way too much money on this game. Way too much money. But yeah, we need alternate formats big time. Just to play the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! You don't need to spend that much money. You really don't. You can make a jank cubic deck for $50 and you can do pretty solid, to be perfectly honest with you. You can make a jank Blue Eyes deck and Dark Magician deck and you can do kind of solid. Now, you're not going to win any major tournaments anytime soon, yeah. But for new players, the point is not to get them to be good enough to be compete at a tournament or a major tournament. The point is to get them into the game. And I think to get them into the game, I think Yu-Gi-Oh! Is fairly inexpensive.